Today on Dr. Phil. She's fallen for a man she's never met.
To help Eric, I sold my house.
You sold your house?
I had given a lot of money to Eric. I didn't even keep track.
I did. We had a grand total. Here's what Eric said. Just relax, love. So when's the $12,000 coming in?
She's lonely and she's looking for companionship, and this guy's telling her everything she wants to hear.
She refuses to believe this is not a real relationship.
You're in love.
Yes, I'm in love.
You've never met this man.
Now, a private investigator gets to the bottom of it.
You will not believe what he found. If he's not for real, would you want to know it? We found the man who goes with the picture. Let's do it.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
I hate to see people suffering, and you've hurt long enough.
Stand by, Dr. Phill.
I'm going to get you the help that you need.
In 5, 4,
This is going to be a changing day in your life.
Go, Dr. Phill.
How you doing? How are y'all? Well, could you imagine, now think about this, having your mother come to visit and getting so angry with her that you pack up her bags, you put them on the doorstep, you call a cab, and you tell her to just get out. Well, I guess some of you would. Well, that's exactly what Kerry did to his 65-year-old mother, Gilda. Why? Because of these. I have over 100 receipts he says prove his mother, Gilda, sent tens of thousands of dollars to her online boyfriend, who he says she never met, and it just made him crazy. Kerry says his mother is acting like a teenager in heat. Said she is always huddled in the corner of the room, texting her boyfriend, telling lies about what she's doing and where she's going, and even sent her boyfriend topless photos. Take a look.
When my father passed away 4 years ago, my mother was debt-free and the house was paid off. After a couple of years, my mom was lonely, so she started going on these dating websites. At first, my mother was scammed for $2,500. We thought she learned a lesson the first time, but everything changed after she met Eric Lane. He's got a construction site, and that's really all I know about him. My mother has never spoken with Eric Lane on the phone, just texting. I'm definitely convinced he's a scammer. I would guess my mother has sent him approximately $150,000. Every time she sends him money, it seems like there's another excuse to send him more money. My mother would rather text than spend time with her grandchildren, and that ticks me off. My mother's financial situation appears to be in ruins now. My mother's credit cards were maxed out. She even went so far as to sell her house to send this guy more money. Right now, my mother's renting a 2-bedroom townhouse. In my eyes, she's on my dad's grave. Since she's met this catfish, Eric, almost everything is now gone. If my mother can't stop seeing this scammer, I don't want her to be around her grandkids.
Well, Kerry's wife, Linda, says her mother-in-law even cut short spending time with her grandchildren so she could run to the bank and send money to her boyfriend.
We actually warned Gilda about going on to dating sites because we heard that there were a lot of scams out there. We found out Gilda was sending money when Kerry's brother Paul logged onto her computer. We found all these transactions in an email. We felt shocked. She's lonely and she's looking for companionship, and this guy's telling her everything she wants to hear. Eric claimed that he was from Ohio, but he almost immediately told Gilda that he had to go to the UK for work. I believe that she's being catfished. Can you get the box for Mommy, Sienna? We don't want her around her kids when she's constantly texting this person. It's distracting, and she's not paying attention to the kids at all. I told Gilda to take my kids' pictures off her Facebook page if she was going to be involved with what we thought was a scammer. I was concerned that my kids would be kidnapped or used in some way to get more money from her. My children are close to Gilda, and she is a good grandmother, but something has to change. My children miss their grandmother, and we want her back.
You describe her as being head over heels in love here.
It appears that way.
I mean, this is your mother, right? I know you're used to thinking about her with your dad and all of that kind of stuff. Are you just overreacting to the fact that there might be a new man in her life?
Well, men that she's never met. All we know is that she's texted them, never talked to them on the phone, you know, no computer video chat. Just texting is it.
Kind of like puppy love, I mean, like infatuation. You say she...
14-year-old girl in heat.
you say she hides her cell phone in her bra?
She did that once when I caught her. She was texting downstairs, playing with the grandkids, I think, and I came downstairs and she put it down her top.
Carrie and Linda are not the only family members upset with Gilda. Her other son, Paul, says he has actually shown his mother proof that Eric is a scammer, but she just doesn't want to hear it. Take a look at this, and then we'll add him to the conversation.
My mother and I are very close. I talk to her almost daily. It haunts me to this day because I encouraged Mom to go online to find someone else to date. I pleaded with my mom to look for somebody who is more compatible because this guy was at least 20 years younger than my mother. Some of the conversations were of a sexual nature, which I think my mom was embarrassed about. These sexual comments just forced her to be isolated because she was so ashamed of showing anybody. She refuses to believe this is not a real relationship. We need someone to prove to Mom that this guy is not real.
All right, well, joining us is Carrie's brother, Paul, who's on Polycom. Paul, thanks for being here. You say this is like she's on drugs. She's so hooked on this.
It's almost like a drug addiction, yes. And we just simply do not know what to do.
She says, look, Dr. Phill, my sons are just wrong. And her handsome, online, younger boyfriend, Eric, is not an imposter. He is real, and he is her future. Because her heart tells her that this is for real. And the heart just doesn't lie.
A couple of days after I signed up for Match.com, I replied to a message from Eric Lane. He was a successful businessman, a successful interior designer. He had been divorced for 5 years, and he had one son in college in London. It wasn't long before I felt a relationship going on. He was more forward than I was. It's exciting and mesmerizing being in a relationship. He's saying, yes, baby, I love you. Love, are you okay? We made concrete plans to meet on 3 separate occasions, and there was always an obstacle that came up that he couldn't make it. He's given several reasons why he can't get out of London. He had to pay his hotel bill and couldn't get his passport until he did. He frequently says, I'll be home to you soon. I've never physically met Eric face to face. Eric has been asking me for money. Baby, are you sending the funds today? And I said, honey, I need money and prayers, love. And he says, so you don't want to help me? He needed money for hospital bills. He needed processing fees to cash his foreign checks. Then they took his passport. He had to pay his hotel bill. He wanted an iPhone and a computer for his son. Every time I was asked for money, it scared me. I had lots of warnings, a lot of people saying this could be a romance scam. It felt real to me. The largest sum I ever sent at one time was $18,000. I think it could add up to $100,000. To help Eric, I sold my house. The plan is when he can get out of London, we'll buy a house together and get married. It would be a dream come true to be married to Eric. I love him and I think he's real.
Now, it's good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Did I hear you say you sold your house?
Yes, I just did.
You
I just sold my house.
Okay. And you sold it because you needed money?
I sold it because I needed money. Yes, I had given a lot of money to Eric.
But you're in love.
Yes, I'm in love.
You've known him now, you've been in contact with him for 1 year and 3 months, right?
That's right.
Okay. And you shared with us some of the text messages to give us a feel for who he is,
Yes.
right? Because he apparently is hugely in love with you.
Yes.
You guys have texted back and forth. He says, love you so much, will you marry me? So you got a proposal.
That's right, I did.
And later, we found the man who goes with the picture. I want you to take a look at this screen right here. Is that the man that you're in love with? You guys have texted back and forth, and here's one. Eric says, I want to spend the rest of my life with you, and I want to hold you and kiss you and make love to you and wake up beside you every morning for the rest of my life. That's nice to hear.
Yes, it is.
You responded, I so want that too, love. You call him love?
Yes, I do.
And he says, I think it would be better if you allow your sexy... put your fingers in your ears. Yeah. Your sexy ass to get spanked. Gilda says, well, I've been waiting for this sexy man to be here so I can say, I'm yours, love. Thanks for your patience. He says, love you so much, will you marry me? And you say, I will marry you, love. I love you with all of my heart.
That's right.
So you got a proposal.
That's right, I did.
And you accepted.
I did after talking for, well, practically every day.
And here's what you know about him, because I kind of summarized it so I would know what you know about him. His name's Eric Lane.
Right.
Right? He's age 52. Gave you his home address. Married status, divorced for 6 years. Mm-hmm. He has a son, David Lane, who attends Chelsea Football School in London.
Right.
Family, at 18, his parents were killed in an accident.
Yes.
He's self-employed by Eric M. Enterprises. Schooling attended, he went to Denver East High School, so he's from Colorado.
Yes.
Denver East High School and Westwood College in Denver North. He's stuck in London, Scotland, or Ireland because his visa expired. And his bank won't allow him to access his money. Why won't they let him access it, by the way?
It's foreign checks that there needs to be a processing fee of a certain cost in order to get the money out.
But you sent him that money.
I did. The money was for many different things.
There's a reason that Eric needed money. And I made a list, and these, again, just bottom line. I know there's a story behind each one. To invest in a business, to pay his hotel bill, to pay his hospital bill, gifts for his son's school tuition.
Just 1 month.
Airline tickets.
Yes.
To buy a cell phone, to buy a computer, to eat, and processing fees in order to cash checks. Those are the reasons that you said, and going back through the history, the reasons that you sent him money. What were the airline tickets for?
To come to Saskatoon from London.
But he didn't come?
No.
Why not?
He had always had a reason. The first time, he was wanting investment fees, and I finally did do that. And then I tried to wire a transfer to help with that so that he could come. The transfer didn't take 3 days. It took close to a month, so that means hotel bills for an extra month.
Okay, if you were looking for a car and I had one to sell, would you buy it without ever seeing it?
It totally depends on the situation.
Does that mean you'd buy my car?
But
without seeing it?
It depends. I went on Christian Mingle, Match.com, and Senior, and I put my picture up, my profile. I got 55 messages that same night, and I tried to message back to several people, and it ended up that I liked the profile and this man, his picture and everything, so I started messaging, yes.
All right. One question before we go to break here. If he's not for real, and just go with me there for argument purposes, would you want to know it?
I want to know the truth.
You want to know the truth.
Right.
What, good or bad, you want to know the truth.
I'm here for that.
Next, just how much money has Gilda sent to Eric? We're going to break it all down, plus the threatening text that he sent to her. We'll be right back. She meets Eric July 7th. That same month, she sends $10,988.
I didn't even keep track.
I did. And later, I can't show these publicly because we don't know who this is. But these are some of the people that you've been sending money to for him.
When my husband died, I felt comfortable with the finances I had. I took some money out of my pension fund to help Eric. I pretty well maxed out. I feel very stressed. I feel concerned. I say lots of prayers every day. Eric said he'd pay me back, that he would sell his house and buy one, and we would have a future.
Well, our Twitter wall is really buzzing about Gilda, who admits to being in love with a man that she has never physically met. Her sons, Carrie and Paul, and Carrie's wife, Linda, all think she is being taken for a very expensive ride by a catfish, a scammer. If you'd like to join the discussion, you can tweet me now at #catfish. Now, Gilda admits to sending money to her online boyfriend, Eric, who is currently stuck in London after his visa expired and they took his passport. Let's look at some of the text between Gilda and Eric about money. Here's what Eric said. Love, it seems the wire transfer will take forever before it gets here. Gilda, I am so angry about it, I can't even think what to do anymore. I love you so much. Eric, love you more, baby. Gilda, I have done all I can except sell my home, love. For you, I would. Eric, no, love, I would never ask you to do such a thing. Did I tell you that I've only been eating once a day for the past 2 days? Gilda, look, I took all of my empty bottles back. I have $28 now for groceries this week. Going to have a garage sale and sell some items Paul and I don't need. Eric, love, please, what about the $12,000 I asked for? Gilda, honey, I'm at the end of my lifeline. I am almost destitute too. There's a small pension fund left. Eric, please pull the money out and I will pay back. I need $12,000.
Makes me angry when I hear it.
Really? It makes me angry to read it because from a psychological standpoint, I saw a lot of manipulation there. I've done all I can except sell my house. No, love, I would never ask you to do that. Did I mention I'm only eating once a day? Come on. All right, Gilda says, I took back empty bottles. You're turning in bottles for the refund? Got $28 for groceries the whole week. Gonna have a garage sale. What about the $12,000 I asked you for? You just said I got $28 to eat on for the week. And he says, yeah, I get it. What about the 12 grand I need? You said, look, I'm sorry, all I've got is a small pension fund left. Please pull that money out. I need the 12,000. When you look at it all together in context, is that of concern to you?
Yes, it is.
I'm so glad. Okay, now, there's more. Okay, this is where Eric threatens your mother. Gilda, should I sell my home and bring you back? What if you're not happy and leave? Then I'll be in deep trouble. You'll have your home, your assets, and mine may be gone. Eric, ha, ha, ha. Have a good life, okay? Bye. And you will never hear from me again. Bye. Then you said, what do you mean, love? This is mean and hurts. Eric, no, you hurt me. You just broke my heart. Well, I'm scared of selling my house, she says. Love, I'm with you all the way. Please. You ask a rational question, he bites you, then says, where's the 12? I want the 12,000. Then they talked about fraud. Gilda, because of the bad check given to me, which I was naive about, that could be considered fraud. Are you serious? You got a fraudulent check? Gilda, I had no idea. Honestly, love, believe me. Eric, God, how could people be so heartless? I can imagine how heartbroken you would be and how mad that could make you. Gilda says, well, apparently the UK police are upping their investigations on fraud and scams there, love. Well, don't give them my information.
Okay, gotta like that.
But I do not want you or I to go to jail, love. Eric, yes, love, and none of us would go to jail, okay? You can send via Western Union. Let's get out of this check business. You can send via Western Union. Gilda says, if my sons find out about this, they will be so angry with me until the funds are returned. Just relax, love, okay? So when's the 12,000 coming in?
Really?
Said that way, it sounds different.
Let me be sure I've done my math right here. Okay, she meets Eric July 7th, right? Okay, that same month she sends $10,988 in the first month. Now you've only known this boy less than a month, and you sent him $10,988.
I didn't even keep track.
I did. What do you think of that? We're just talking about a couple of weeks.
I'm not shocked. I feel...
Okay, that's July. Okay, August, second month. $41,178.46. September, $29,214.50. October, 10 grand, 854. November, 2,187.52. December, 3,000. January, 4,000. February, 3,190. Then we jump to June.
Of course.
Carrie, Paul?
I don't know what to say. More
Paul,
than
what
I
do you have to say?
I don't have words at the moment. She had promised me every day that she was not sending money.
August, 27,120. Then there was additional money transfer of 9,398. And then we had a grand total.
It's 50,000 more than I thought. Nice job.
$191,950.48. That's in black and white. You've never met this man in person. You've never talked to him on the phone. So you're buying this deal. It's like you're not buying my car, you're buying the whole dealership. This is not an insubstantial amount of money to you, right?
It's a lot of money. I just felt like relationship online, talking every day, there was someone there for me. And yes, the money was pressure, was upsetting. It seemed like I was just mesmerized and in love, and I couldn't, whenever he was in trouble, it just got my heart, and I couldn't seem to stop.
And if he's real, then this is all coming back, right? It's all coming back, if he's real.
If he's real.
Right. Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about whether he's real or not. Next, private investigator Doug Kane looked into Gilda's online boyfriend, Eric Lane, and he has some very interesting details to reveal when we come back. I can't show these publicly because we don't know who this is. But these are some of the people that you've been sending money to for him. Well, we're here with Gilda, who has been in a romantic and expensive relationship with her online boyfriend, Eric Lane, for a year and 3 months. Now, her sons, Carrie and Paul, and her daughter-in-law, Linda, are angry and frustrated because they claim Gilda has sent Eric virtually all of her life savings and even sold the family home and has now sent him over $191,000. So I asked Doug Kane, he's the president of Risk Control Strategies, to do some work for us. Doug is here. And now, prior to becoming a private investigator, Doug was a special agent with the FBI for 27 years conducting criminal investigations. So you have used databases and all different kinds of things to determine what's real and what's not about this person, true?
Absolutely, Dr. Phill.
All right. And let's take a look at what he has found so far. And you'll have to follow me along here. Now, after searching multiple databases for Eric Lane, that's the name, with the date of birth that he has given you, he did a lot of checking. He said, for example, that he went to East High School in Denver, right? Well, we've contacted them. They've gone through their transcripts. No record of Eric Lane. Never attended that school, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You sent Eric money through a friend, Chris Mullins, 65 times. That name shows up on multiple dating sites with different pictures. The photo of Gilda's Eric showed up on several dating sites with different names. So you've got this picture of this man that you have fallen in love with. It shows up on all of these different websites. Eric Lane, James Simmons, George Buckner, Albert, Craig Murphy, and Melvin Stunt.
Yeah, I don't know what to say here, Gilda. I mean, basically what has happened is you have fallen in love with an online identity. It is not an individual. This person doesn't exist.
Now, Eric told Gilda that his son, David Lane, attends Chelsea Football School in London. There is a Chelsea Football Club in London. There's no Chelsea Football School, but there is a Chelsea Football Club. They have no David Lane listed on their roster. And there is no school. He only wanted you to text him through the internet. Why is that?
Well, what you find here is he didn't want to have a real conversation with you. So he would go back and forth through the internet, which makes it much more difficult to track.
I have some things I can show you. I can't show these publicly because we don't know who this is. But these are some of the people that you've been sending money to for him, and we're not showing them. But see, this is the Chris Mullins,
Okay.
and he's on all these scammer sites. Here he is again on a scam site. So tell me what's your reaction to what I've said so far.
I wanted the truth, and I know my sons warned me and everybody warned me, but I just wanted to know for sure.
Well, I don't want you to have any doubts. We're going to take a break. Eric gave Gilda his home address in Ohio. So naturally, Doug Kane checked that out. You will not believe what he found. Don't even get up and go to the bathroom. You are not going to believe what he found out. We'll be right back.
The relationship with my sons has been difficult. My heart was pulled between this person that I love and helping him, and making sure that my sons know that I care about them, which I do a lot. My sons are pretty obviously clear it's a scam. I don't feel that way, but I just want to know for sure. I want to know the truth.
Well, private investigator Doug Kane has been sharing with Gilda what he's found out about her online love, Eric Lane, who her sons and daughter-in-law believe is a catfish imposter who is using her for their deceased father's hard-earned life savings. Now, by the way, I want to say, we're using the name Eric Lane, and I'm putting quotes around that every time, and Chris Mullins, because, look, I'm sure there are Eric Lanes and Chris Mullins out there who have nothing to do with this. That's just the name that's being used. So if you work with or know somebody by that name, don't think we're saying they're scammers. They're victims. Somebody has stolen their name and is using it as part of what I believe and Gilda's family believe is a fraud. Now, the address Eric Lane gave Gilda exists. We found something that exists, and it is owned by someone with a similar name, but he is 21 years younger than your Eric Lane. Here is the house, right here. It exists. It is on a street. It's the right address. It's the right street. That is the house. You were able to find that, verify that, and on the phone, we have the man who actually lives in this house where Gilda's boyfriend claimed he lived. Hello, Dr. Eric, are you there?
I am.
You are not Eric Lane that has been on the internet talking to Gilda, correct?
Correct.
But you have a similar name, and this is your house and your address, but somebody has just ripped it off, true?
That seems to be the case, yes.
Gilda, this man that you're talking to, he's a doctor. He doesn't have a construction company. He's a doctor. He lives in this house that your man told you was his home address. Well, you're talking to the man that lives here. He's a doctor. What's your specialty, doctor?
I'm a psychiatrist. That irony is not lost here. I'm sure.
Doctor, we'll let you get back to your important work. Thank you so much for helping us out today.
You're welcome.
In case she needs just a little more convincing, we have one more bit of shocking news for Gilda after the break.
I've only seen Eric on webcam at the very beginning of the relationship a few times. I couldn't hear him very well at all. I didn't pick up any accents. The picture that I saw was very much like the person in the video, but it was a little bit darker. It looked pretty identical. It felt like a real person to me.
Well, you just heard Gilda say she spoke to her online boyfriend, Eric, on Skype, and that convinced her that he and their love were real. But you admit that that picture was pretty dark and grainy. And
yes, it was. It was, you know, you could see the form and you could see the identity, but it was hard to hear.
So you've never really seen him up close, face to face?
No.
Okay. Well, I want you to take a look at this screen right here. Is that the man that you talked to on Skype?
It looks like it.
Well, that certainly is the man that you're in love with.
Yes, that's right.
Your family said he didn't exist. He wasn't real.
Now this is all confusing me.
It's confusing because there he is. Yeah. Let me introduce you to attorney James Avery from Denver, Colorado. James, hello.
Hello, Dr. Phill. Hello, Gilda.
This is the man right here. This is an attorney from Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
This is the picture that has been ripped off by the person telling you he is Eric Lane. Let me ask you, has your name ever been Eric Lane?
No, obviously it's not.
James, do you know anyone named Eric Lane?
No, this all is very new to me. I'm seeing it for the first time.
And you obviously have nothing to do with this whatsoever. Somebody saw your picture, they ripped it off and started using it and putting it out there on the internet.
It's shocking, but obviously true.
So you say you're confused. We found the man who goes with the picture.
Exactly, yes.
James, I'm very sorry that they jacked your picture, but at least now you know it, so you can be scanning for that sort of thing. And you're very kind to take time out of your day as a professional to sit down and have this conversation with Gilda. I think it helps her so much to see the man behind the picture and to know that it's not the person that he's purported to be. Has this been a help to you?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Good luck, Gilda.
Next, I'll tell you how to figure out if you are being baited by a catfish. We'll be right back. Well, I'm back with Gilda and her family, and all of them are in a bit of shock right now. I think you guys are in shock at the number.
More than I thought. Yeah.
It's more than you thought, but you knew it was bad. Paul, I know it's more than you thought, but you knew we were talking about 6 figures here. And Gilda,
Yes.
we've shared a lot of information with you. I'll tell you why this is so important to me, is you clearly deserve to have a relationship. You clearly deserve to have someone to share your life with. And whoever is doing this has stolen 15 months of your life. And when you could have been meeting and going through the normal evolution and finding someone that you could share experiences with in your life. And that's the tragedy. He's taken your money, he's taken your time, he's broken your heart. But are you glad to know the truth?
I wanted to know the truth for some time, and I guess I came from a world of trust, and I just couldn't believe it had happened to me.
Okay, and let me ask you straight up, look me in the eye. Do you believe and understand that there is no Eric Lane?
Yes, I do.
No doubt, no question, we're clear.
It's clear to me, and I wanted to be here for the truth.
Okay, have we done our job here?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
You good?
Thank
Paul,
you.
we good?
I do worry that she might continue to text, but we'll try to be there.
Well, we're going to unplug. He's going to have a hard time finding her because everything should change after you two get a chance to vent a little with this guy, which I think would be interesting. And listen, there are warning signs to tell if you are being baited by a catfish, and one is dumb date data. The physical description should match the photos. And if you see professional photos, that's a red flag. I mean, if it's a glam photo, they've ripped it off from some modeling site somewhere. Look for spelling and grammar fail. So many of these folks don't speak English as a first language. If they're derailing you from a dating site, saying, okay, let's get off of this site, it's just you and me, let's get over to the side. They get too serious too soon, they ask a lot of questions, they're fake book fakers, and realize you are not an ATM machine. If you were glued to today's show, stay tuned for tomorrow's episode where we are going to confront a real-life catfish who will actually be here in studio sitting on this stage. We found one, we caught one, we reeled him in. You don't want to miss that.
I don't either.
I want to thank all of my guests today. Thank you so much, Gilda. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr.
Great job. Thank you.
Dr. Phill.
Kayla Phillips says she was stopped after buying a $2,500 handbag.
I felt like a criminal.
You believe this was racial profiling?
Absolutely.
The cop pulled up behind us, and he reached for his gun.
I'm like, sir, we're actors. We're not criminals.
He said, are you doing this because we're black? A couple seconds later, he was handcuffing Dennis.
You stop me, handcuff me, you better, by God, have a good reason. Let's do it.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
I hate to see people suffering, and you've heard long enough.
Stand by, Dr. Phill.
I'm going to get you the help that you need.
In 5, 4,
This is going to be a changing day in your life.
Go, Dr. Phill.
How you doing? Hey, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, here's a question. Do you clutch your bag or grab your wallet when you see someone whose skin might be darker than yours? Or who is dressed a little too urban for your comfort? Do you look sideways at fellow flyers who appear to be of a different descent if you're on an airline? Well, it's all about two words today that many argue are behind the most humiliating and outrageous headlines in the news recently. We're talking about racial profiling. Now, I bet if I ask everyone in the audience and viewers at home who are watching and tweeting right now what they think of this term, I might get the politically correct response. It shouldn't happen. But is that how you really feel? Or do you secretly profile on a daily basis? All I know is some very high-profile stores are under fire right now for incidents involving shoppers of a certain race. Take a look.
Some are calling it the shop and frisk scandal.
Two giant names in upscale retail, both rocked by allegations of racial profiling.
African-American shoppers being treated with suspicion.
Treated like shoplifters, they say, because of their skin color.
This 19-year-old college student was stopped outside the store minutes after buying an expensive belt. And this 21-year-old woman was detained after she bought a $2,500 handbag.
I felt like a criminal.
Hollywood actor Robert Brown bought a $1,300 watch inside the iconic Macy's store. After he made the purchase, he says he was surrounded by undercover cops.
All I kept hearing was, it's a fake card, you're going to jail.
The allegations are echoes of Oprah Winfrey's recent run-in at an upscale boutique in Switzerland. She says she was the victim of racial profiling when a shop clerk refused to show her a $38,000 Tom Ford handbag.
You should be able to go in a store looking like whatever you look like and say, I'd like to see this.
After the George Zimmerman verdict, President Obama referred to the shopping while black phenomenon.
There are very few African-American men in this country who haven't had the experience of being followed when they were shopping in a department store. That includes me.
We have viewers on Polycom who can't wait to weigh in, and Twitter is on fire with comments already, and we just started the show. If you'd like to join the discussion, you can tweet me now at Dr. Phill, #race. But first, 22-year-old Kayla's story made national headlines after she was accused by 4 plainclothes officers who approached her outside of a high-end department store in New York City. Take a look.
Consumers are reconsidering where to swipe their cards after a series of complaints from shoppers that they've been racially profiled.
21-year-old nursing student Kayla Phillips says she was stopped after buying a $2,500 handbag from Barney's.
I was embarrassed, humiliated. I felt like a criminal.
Shoppers were detained without merit. All tell similar stories. All are African American.
This photo shows some prominent civil rights leaders questioning Barney's New York CEO Mark Lee.
No individual should go through the unacceptable experiences described by Trayon Christian and Kayla Phillips in recent media reports.
Rapper Jay-Z is caught up in the controversy as well. He has a clothing line set to debut at Barney's next month. Some shoppers are now calling on him to pull the line.
New York State's Attorney General is investigating the allegations of racial profiling at Barney's.
Well, here's more of what Kayla has to say.
Racial profiling does exist. I went through it.
That had to be the most embarrassing low point in my life. When I was in the store, everything was pretty normal. I bought the saline bag.
I left Barney's. I headed toward 59th and Lexington, where I took the 4 train to head back to Brooklyn. 2 undercover officers approached me. One grabbed me by my hand. 2 other undercover officers came across, blocked my entrance, blocked the exit.
They started to interrogate me. How can I afford the bag I was wearing, which was a Chanel bag? I told them that it was my mom's bag. The undercover officer asked me, how did I purchase my Barney's bag? And I told her I used my debit card. She then asked me to see it. I pulled out my temporary card, which she told me that's not the card you use. I then looked down and it was the wrong one. The first thought in my head was Barney's had to have sent them after me.
At this point, I'm feeling very scared. I don't know what to do. I'm humiliated with all these eyes watching me.
They really never gave me a complete explanation. I just remember they said to me, if someone was using your information, you would want us to stop them. I felt very insulted, low. I felt like just because of my skin color, I don't deserve to buy that expensive bag. My self-esteem went from 100 to 0 after that.
Well, Kayla's mother, Wendy, was instrumental in getting her daughter's case heard publicly. Here's what she has to say.
The way that the officers treated Kayla enraged me. I was very upset. There's no reason why she should have been treated that way. I wish that I was there. I definitely feel that Kayla was targeted. I feel that Kayla was targeted because she was an African-American young woman. That bag is purchased every day. Why her? Why was she approached? The whole situation makes me angry. Barney's is not taking the situation seriously enough. No one wants to take responsibility, and no one wants to apologize.
Well, Kayla and her mother, Wendy, are joining us via satellite from New York City, so I welcome the two of you. When you pulled out your debit card, you gave them the one that wasn't activated yet. You had the other one in your purse, which you then produced. But that officer said, this is not the card you used. How did they know that? How did they know that if they weren't in the store, watching on the cameras, or involved with Barney's internal security? How did they know that wasn't the card you used?
Exactly. That's what I want to know, Dr. Phill, because, you know, I didn't see any of those 4 undercover officers in Barney's with me or around me while I was making my purchase.
All right, Wendy, you called security at Barney's. Were they apologetic? Did they know anything about it? What was their attitude?
Pretty much their attitude was that they had no involvement in the incident, so, you know, I'm to take it up with NYPD.
You two believe clearly that this was racial profiling, correct?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, I want to add someone to the conversation here. Former national chairman of the conservative black think tank and author of Random Rants, Michael Massey, says he does not believe there is a pandemic of racial profiling. Michael, what do you mean nobody in their right mind would racially profile in 2013?
At the mere suggestion, hint, or possibility that someone has been detained or looked at based on race, color of skin, triggers a series of events that no business owner, no police department in their right mind wants to go through.
I spent 20 years on LAPD from 1980 to 2000, and I appreciate this gentleman's perspective, but what he has not been is a police officer. And so I can tell you without a doubt that officers routinely stop people and manufacture PC to fit the circumstance. And that's exactly what happened in this instance. I am not talking about something anecdotally. I'm not talking about something that I've heard. I'm talking about something that I've been a witness to and a victim of as a police officer and as a black woman.
Well, first of all,
but let me say this, and I just have to say this. Every barrel can have some bad apples. There's no question about it. And I've got to tell you, I think in large part, these are very dedicated, sincere men and women who put themselves in harm's way and stand in the gap for all of us, and I appreciate them. Now, the audience has a chance to participate in the show via audience polling response system. Remember that all results are anonymous, so you can answer this question honestly. It's under your chair, and here's the question. Do you feel Kayla was a victim of racial profiling? And it's A, yes, and B, no. Okay, here's the response. 78% say yes, she was profiled, and 22% say no. So most of you feel that she was profiled. Now, we have a full statement from Barney's New York on our website on drphill.com. All right, we've got to move on. I want to thank Kayla and Wendy for helping with the story. I think it raises awareness and makes people think about this. Next, you're going to remember my next guest is the best friend of the popular 80s TV character Punky Brewster. You're going to find out why she and her boyfriend were handcuffed and searched by a police officer after they say they were accused of illegally picking cotton. We'll be right back.
Next thing I know, I see the cop pull up.
He opened up my bag and he said, "Come here, this is marijuana right here." And I was like, "That's not marijuana, that's a tea bag."
He reached for his gun and told me to get back in the car. I threw my hands up in the air and was like, whoa.
This former child star and her actor boyfriend recently made headlines after they say a weekend getaway down south ended up with them being harassed by a police officer, handcuffed and falsely accused of having drugs and illegally picking cotton.
Police stop involving two celebrities goes viral. Were they the victims of racial profiling?
They were on a romantic getaway when a sightseeing stop led to some very unwelcome attention from the police. Johnson and White say they were improperly stopped by police, put in handcuffs, and harshly questioned about drugs and money. They claim the incident took place because of their race. I have to ask, when all of this was happening, was there a point where you said, okay, we're being profiled here?
I actually asked him when I was still seated in the car after he told me that I did not have a warrant for my arrest, and he started asking me about drugs for the third time. I said, "Are you doing this because we're black?" And the next thing I knew, he was handcuffing Dennis.
Here's more of what Cherry and Dennis have to say.
Dennis and I were definitely racially profiled by the police in South Carolina.
We were driving to Myrtle Beach for a vacation. We taught acting class the previous day, and we saw cotton fields. Cherry has never seen cotton fields before, so I obliged her. We pulled over.
Next thing I know, I see the cop pull up. I walked up to the officer and I said, "Hey, I just wanted to pull over and take some pictures." Well, he reached for his gun and told me to get back in the car. I threw my hands up in the air and was like, whoa.
Told us to sit in the car. He checked my license. He came back, pulled me out the car. He left me, went and talked to her.
I said, "Excuse me, are you doing this because we're black?" It was like that look that your father gives you when you know that you've done something wrong. That was the look he gave me for asking the question. Moments later, I saw him putting on gloves and he was handcuffing Dennis.
I'm like, "Why are you handcuffing me?" He said, "Because I can." So he pulled her out the car. He said, "What's your probable cause?" He said, "You might have a dead body in the car." I'm like, "Sir, we're actors, we're not criminals."
I asked, "Why are you handcuffing me?" He told me, "I'm handcuffing you for my safety." At that point, I didn't have any rights.
I felt emasculated because I couldn't protect her. I think that when he initially stopped us, he was hoping to find something, and when he didn't, he was trying to trip us up so that he could justify the predicament he put us in, but to no avail. He said, "I can arrest you guys for trespassing and petty larceny." Like, petty larceny? You guys stole cotton? Like, we didn't steal any cotton. He opened up my bag and he said, "Come here, this is marijuana right here." And I was like, "That's not marijuana, that's a tea bag." So he's like, "Well, I have ways of testing it." I was like, "Well, do as you will." So he smells it and he said, "Oh yeah, it is tea." I'm like, "Duh."
He tried to provoke us to the very end. I put my hand up so that he could unhandcuff my right arm, and he got right in my personal space in my face and stared at me. I was upset, angry, and hurt.
I felt totally helpless.
We were on the side of the road for about an hour in handcuffs, so we were definitely guilty until proven innocent.
Okay, well, I'm glad y'all are here. I wish we were talking about something different. But
Me too.
I'm glad you're here. And it scares me that you guys are in the middle of nowhere. And somebody is stopping you. Well, they didn't even stop you. You were stopped and taking pictures and looking around, right?
Yeah, we stopped because my oil light came on a rental car, and she's never seen cotton. So I grew up in North Carolina, so like I've seen it all the time. So we went to take pictures, and we stopped. We was there for about 5 to 7 minutes, walking back to the car. The cop pulled up behind us, and he reached for his gun. And she put her hands up. We got in the car. He started asking us questions, you know, where are we going? Where are we from? He asked me, how do I know her? How long have we been dating? You know, and it was just, I feel like he was trying to bait me to do something unnecessary. But I was very respectful because I knew we didn't do anything wrong. We went back to the car, took her driver's license, came back and said she had a warrant for her arrest.
And I told him, I don't have a warrant for my arrest. I've never done anything wrong. He went back to his car. He came back and said, you don't have a warrant for your arrest. I looked at him and said, I know. And then he asked me to get out of the car. He took me in the front of the car, and he started asking me, well, do you have marijuana? Because if you do, I'll write you a citation, and I'll let you go. I said, no, I don't have drugs. Then he went on to ask me if I had cocaine. Then he asked me if I had crack. And he asked me if I had any other sort of drugs. And I said, no, sir, I might have a Midog. I don't have anything else. He told me I could go back and get in the car. And that's when everything turned for the worse. I looked at him and I said, sir, can I ask you a question? And he said, yes. I said, I come from a cop family. My aunt's a cop, my uncle's a cop, my little brother's a police officer. I don't understand why you're doing this. Are you doing this because we're black? He tapped on the window and walked in the back of the car. I turned around and looked, and he was putting on black leather gloves. A couple seconds later, he was handcuffing Dennis.
It was hard for me because, I mean, I'm black, I'm a young black male. I've been racially profiled before, but it was a different story in this situation because I felt responsible for her.
I can just tell you from a psychological perspective, the last thing you want to do is challenge the authority of someone that has authority and a gun.
Yes.
Discretion's the better part of valor.
Yeah.
Trust me, you did exactly the right thing. But all right, we got to take a quick break. Dennis says he does feel emasculated as a result of his alleged racial profiling experience, but we're going to talk to one critic who claims Dennis and Cherry were not racially profiled. They do not understand what is involved in police work. We'll be right back.
Before this incident, I knew there was racial profiling. I've been a victim of it, but this showed how prevalent it is. I felt raped. I've never been raped, but I felt violated. I was powerless, and there was nothing I could do.
Well, that was Dennis talking about his reaction to the police after he was allegedly a victim of racial profiling. Now, Cherry and Dennis say their romantic getaway turned into a nightmare after they say a police officer harassed them, handcuffed them on the side of the road, essentially for stopping to take pictures of a cotton field. Now, conservative podcast host Ari David says racial profiling is in fact a necessary evil and that they're just confusing this with police work. Ari, thanks for being here, number one.
Thank you, Doctor.
What do you say?
Can you two understand why a policeman would get suspicious or defensive seeing people in the middle of nowhere and perhaps have an understanding for the kind of dangerous people policemen deal with on a daily basis?
Taking pictures. When I told him as soon as I saw him, hello, sir, I'm sorry, I've never seen
Do
cotton
criminals answer a policeman honestly all the time?
Policeman never asked me anything. I volunteered, sir.
So, I pay taxes. You pay taxes, right?
Yes.
I should be responsible.
Too many. Too much.
I should be allowed to go anywhere I want to on this planet.
Not necessarily if it's, not if it's on private property or if the policeman had suspicion that you had entered the cotton field, which was private property or perhaps private property in the
Yeah,
owner.
but let's be commonsensical here. What's somebody going to steal in a cotton field?
Cotton.
They checked them out, and they didn't have any cotton on them except maybe the shirt they were wearing, and that was already...
And they let these people go. Were you ever arrested? Were you ever taken to the station or detained for...
I was detained against my will.
On the side of the road?
On the side of the road. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It wasn't late at night.
And
it wasn't
after you were detained, you were let go after the...
So that's okay?
There was no reasonable...
Cheryl.
There was no reason that makes sense for that officer to do what he did beyond, oh, you're taking pictures of cotton, have at it, enjoy your day. Most people don't understand that when an officer stops you, we respect authority. And so when an officer stops you and says, I want to engage you in a conversation, you do for a moment. But then when that conversation becomes, how long have you known her, where are you going, what color underwear are you wearing, now you're out of line. But I can't, as a civilian, go there with an officer. I'm required to answer those questions because in LA, we have a thing called contempt of cop. And if you don't go along with what they're saying and what they're doing, then they will do exactly what this officer was trying to do, which was create that PC that I've been talking about, because you have got to have PC. He didn't stop them because of a traffic violation, which then caused him to ask a litany of other questions. He came upon them in the midst of doing what they were doing legally, lawfully, and reasonably. And then he tried to create a situation. And understand, young man, that you did exactly what you were supposed to have done. Because had you done anything different, I promise you, you would have gone to jail that night.
Yeah. Okay, now when you say PC, you mean probable cause.
Probable cause. You must have probable cause. And I don't get to, as a police officer, just cuff people because you scare me. That's why I go to a police academy and get training for 6 months. That's why I spent 18 months in the field with a training officer who teaches me how to conduct myself. So I don't get to just look at you and say, you scared me, and now I want to put you in handcuffs.
See, we've been conditioned to think that if you don't go to jail, woo, you got off safely.
You did.
But anytime you've been detained incorrectly is wrong.
Ari, I'm sorry, but you stopped me alongside the road, handcuffed me and detained me for an hour. You better, by God, have a good attorney and a good reason. All right, we reached out to the Marion County Sheriff's Department several times. As of tape time, they were unable to give us a statement. I want the audience to participate in the show, as I said. I want you to pick up your response device. Do you feel that Cherry and Dennis are being too sensitive about their experience in South Carolina? 87% no. They do not feel you are being too sensitive about your situation. And he didn't vote, so he's not in the 13%. All right. All right. We're going to talk to a former minor league baseball player who was shot point blank in the chest in his parents' driveway, and he survived. He claimed to have been a victim of racial profiling and sued. You may be surprised what happens next. We're going to add him to the conversation and hear more from these folks as well. We'll be right back. Robbie planned to follow in his father's famous footsteps and become a Major League Baseball player until a bullet fired from a police officer's gun ripped through his chest and destroyed his dream. Now, the shooting happened in his parents' driveway in an affluent neighborhood in Texas. Not only did it make headlines, but it also enraged a nation.
It was a bizarre series of events.
He didn't even put on his lights.
20-year-old Anthony Cooper says he and Robert Tolan were driving home from Jack in the Box around 2:30 this morning. A policeman approached them in his driveway.
He came with us with a gun.
It was a Bel Air PD sergeant, 10 years on the force, and apparently convinced he was staring at two suspects getting out of a stolen SUV.
The vehicle, it turned out not to be stolen. Why they thought it was stolen, how they got a stolen report, I'm not clear yet.
The SUV wasn't stolen, and when the victim's mom came outside, there was confusion and an argument.
While he's on the ground, he goes in and say, "What are you doing with my mom?" Bam.
It appears up to 3 shots were fired by that single sergeant in rapid succession. 2 hit the house. 1 hit 23-year-old Robert Tolan, son of former pro ball player Bobby Tolan.
He was trying to pursue a career in baseball like I did.
Robbie and his parents feel like they were treated like criminals simply because of the color of their skin.
The officer approached us as we were approaching the front door. He just came out of the darkness with a gun and flashlight drawn. Did not announce himself, told us to get on the ground. We didn't do anything, so we're like, you know, get on the ground for what? And he said, I'm not going to say it again, get on the ground.
We were right in the kitchen. We were in our pajamas. Then we heard Robbie say, "What are you talking about? That's my car." We both went to the door. I think my husband went out the door first.
I went outside to see why they were arguing, and when I opened up the door, I was blinded by the flashlight. No one said, "This is the police."
I heard Robbie say, they say I stole a car.
My dad said, no, that has to be a mistake. That's my son, that's his car, this is our house. At that point, the officer walked my dad over at gunpoint to search him.
He made me put my hands up and spread eagle. And then he asked me if I had any weapons on me. And I said, no, I don't have any weapons.
Once my mom saw things were taking a turn for the worse, she started to be a little more vocal.
I said, this is a big mistake. And then the next thing I heard someone come behind me and say, get against the wall.
Another officer walked over to my mom and grabbed her and threw her up against the garage door. I wasn't too happy about seeing my mom treated like that. I pushed myself up and turned around and I said, get your hands off my mom. After that, the officer didn't say a word. He just drew his gun and shot me. I stayed in the hospital about a month.
The officer that shot my son was indicted, and we went to trial, and then he was acquitted.
I was mad as hell. You have several errors in judgment that led to me being shot and, fighting for my life, and the people responsible weren't held accountable.
So they approached you, as it turns out, because they thought you had stolen a car.
Mm-hmm.
And whose car was it?
It's mine.
It was your car?
Yes, my name was on it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently they had put in a wrong ID number or vehicle identification number?
I think, as it turned out, they put one wrong digit in.
And it came up stolen?
Came up stolen.
But it wasn't. Now, you two, you come out because why? What caused you to come out of the house?
Well, I heard Robbie say, this is my car. And I thought he was talking to Anthony, like Anthony went to use the car and go someplace else. So I came out the house to break up their little argument, him and Anthony. And when I came out the house, a cop, I didn't know he was a cop either. He didn't identify himself. I came out and Robbie said, they said we stole a car. I said, this is my house, this is my son, it's his car. I got the flashlight in my face, and he points me, takes me at gunpoint to my Suburban in the driveway. And then he makes me spread eagle and asks me, do I have any weapons? And I'm looking to my right, because he's on my right side. The next thing I heard was a gunshot. And then he forced me by taking me over to a police car and put me in the back of this police car.
Okay. And where were you when this was happening?
When the boys were on the ground, Bobby was spread eagle against the Suburban, I was talking to that officer that had the gun pointed at them. And I really felt at that time like they were just harassing them because they were black. And I said, this is a terrible mistake. We've lived here 15 years. And I felt they knew us. We were only blacks on our block. They knew who we were.
The black population in Bel Air is less than 2%. So
right.
They know where the blacks
they know where the blacks live in the neighborhood.
We weren't hiding. We have black people at our house. We're black. We go to the grocery store. We go to the bank. We jog in our neighborhood. We do the same thing everybody else does. They knew who we were. He'd had that car 4 years.
And I was not arrested. I'm glad you made that point. I was not arrested. But I was shot. I have lasting effects. And for you to tell me to get over it, it's
I'm
insulting.
not telling you to get over it.
I'm speaking.
You were shot.
You told them to get over it.
They weren't shot.
You said you would
It
get
does
over
not
it and
matter.
move on.
It doesn't matter to the degree of racial profiling. Racial profiling is racial profiling. The comments you made are ignorant and insulting.
I don't think you're racially profiled.
You don't think I was racially profiled.
Robbie is not only carrying the bullet lodged in his liver to this day because they can't remove it because it's just too high risk. He's also carrying anxiety and anger. That's not a good combination. We're going to talk about this and more when we come back.
I was laying there in pain, and I couldn't believe what happened. It was surreal. I stuck my hand under my shirt and pulled it out, and it was covered in blood, and I was just like, oh, man. I just knew I was going to die.
It's been 5 years since Robbie was shot in the chest by a police officer, leaving him with a collapsed lung and a bullet lodged in his liver. The family says they are still fighting for justice after losing 2 court cases against the police department for racial profiling. We did contact Lieutenant Jeff Cotton, and he gave us the following statement. The Tolan case is on appeal in the federal courts. I am not able to comment on the case at this time. Our Twitter is just blowing up as we're talking about this. Flyaway XO tweeted, as African Americans, we tend to fulfill the stereotypes we're given. Then we want to get mad at these things. Shalina, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, Phil.
Hi, how are you? Now, you're the one that sent the tweet, right?
Right.
All right, tell me what you mean.
First of all, I want to start out by saying I'm sorry, and I'm hurt by what decent African Americans have to go through due to the bad batch of African Americans that act ignorant. By that tweet, I mean we have this batch of African Americans who steal, who promote, stealing, doing drugs, selling cocaine, shooting. Look at Chicago. And that becomes the face of our whole community, unfortunately. And then you got people like Sherry and her husband and this young man who got shot for no reason, who carried themselves decently, having to reap what these ignorant African Americans sow. And that's what I mean. We need a change. We need a makeover as African Americans. And that's my take on that.
All right. Thank you, Shalina. I really appreciate your comment. Is it possible that this was just really bad police work?
It's bad training, Dr. Phill, because we have police officers in our family that's related to us. And they told us, I believe there was like 5 different steps they have to go before they use deadly force. He went right to deadly force. He had a taser. At least taser my son, don't try to kill him.
Right.
And then they take his cell phone and stuff and run a background check on him. And they know this after they found out the vehicle was stolen.
The audience has a chance to participate in the show via an audience polling response system. Now remember that all results are anonymous, so answer this question honestly. Do you feel Robbie was a victim of racial profiling? A for yes, B for no. 74% of you say yes, 26% of you say no. It just seems to me that commonsensically, particularly if you've got training and this was a veteran police officer, you see this distinguished gentleman come out of his house in his pajamas. You see this lovely woman come out of her house. It just doesn't seem like you're in Thug Central. And I think at that point you would be looking to de-escalate the situation as opposed to throwing this woman up against the garage door. I don't know. I wasn't there, but it just seems to me like that's just really poor work. From shopping to driving to standing in your driveway, everyone has an opinion about what happened to our guest today. This show's far from over. We'll be right back.
I've seen an African American walk in a store and be targeted because of the color of their skin. I've watched them be followed. We are ignorant to believe that targeting race over criminality and behaviors is effective, because it's not.
I think it should be called behavioral profiling more than racial profiling. I worked in retail many years. We were actually told to watch for rich-looking white women with extra large purses. So that's not necessarily racial profiling as much as it is behavioral profiling.
My take on it is that African Americans are responsible for the racial profiling going on right now in America. I believe that if we conducted ourselves like legit Americans, like logical Americans, like Americans who had some sort of an education, maybe a lot more people would feel safe around us.
Okay, as I say, we've been getting lots of tweets, and we're talking about racial profiling. Janet Pfeiffer 1 here says, stats don't lie. More crimes are committed by certain groups than others. Stop committing crimes, and the reputation improves. And we've got Healed Hearts here, says racial profiling definitely exists, although some would justify by saying it was a cop doing their job. So it's just interesting to me when you look at these. At Eating to Heaven says racial profiling is critical in law enforcement and too often abused. We can keep going. After 9/11, I started looking at people from the Middle East differently. I hate that. I was never like that before. That's from @Tina M. Cummings. Marion Greer says racial profiling is flawed, but it is a good deterrent to crime. So she actually thinks this is a necessary evil that we live with. Polychick AM tweeted, bad guys come in all colors. If anyone of any race is acting strange, better safe than sorry beats the PC version, just sorry. So this is Anne Marie. Anne Marie, tell me a little more about what you mean here.
Crazy comes in all colors. If I were walking down a dark alley, I don't know why I would ever be doing that, and I saw you, Dr. Phill, I would assess the situation. Why is Dr. Phill in a dark alley? Is this safe for me? I probably, no offense, I would probably turn around. You can't be too safe in America 2013. Everyone has the potential of hurting you.
Now, you say you worked in a department store, right?
I did, back in my single mom days, yes.
And they told you to look for exactly the opposite. They told you to watch affluent-looking white women with big bags.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, almost everyone in the store I worked in looked exactly like that. And but I guess statistically, a lot of bored rich housewives were doing the 5-finger discount thing.
Gotcha. All right, earlier we spoke about Kayla's case against Barney's. Criminal and civil attorney Kareem Vessup is representing Kayla. Kareem, what can you add to this?
The one thing I would caution people when they take a position about racial profiling is to first realize that it's all about the assumptions that people make about others. We all make assumptions, but when your behavior then is dictated by your assumptions, that's when we run into the risk of having excesses like what happened with Kayla and all of the victims that have been on the show today. And that's the concern.
You know, one of the things that I'm concerned about and that I've spent time studying over the years is something that's referred to as hidden bias or implicit bias. This is a mental attitude towards a person, thing, or a group that a person holds at an unconscious level. And think about this. This is often at variance with consciously held or expressed beliefs, and it may result in unintended discrimination. So what I mean is there are people that will say, no, I don't like that, don't want bias, don't want profiling, don't want this or that. But there is a mental residue at an unconscious level that causes there to be, to treat people differently. For example, one study shows that if you were interviewing applicants for a job, white interviewers tended to sit further away from black applicants than non-black applicants. And those interviews tended to be 25% shorter. We'll be right back. How do you feel when you have been rejected in the court system twice, when you are operating a vehicle that you own lawfully on streets that you pay taxes for, going to a house where you live and you get shot? And basically, your own insurance has to pay for it.
Right.
And you've had no redress whatsoever from any source, correct?
Right.
Have you ever had an apology?
No, of course not.
No apology, no compensation for lost...
Dr. Phill, the judge that dismissed our civil case also ordered that we pay the police officer who shot him. We had to pay his court fees, almost $7,000.
And you know what? And also, at one point, They must have felt that they were going to lose because they had a meeting with our attorneys to have a settlement case. They wanted to settle with us and pay us money, a settlement hearing. And the amount of money that they offered, we just walked out of the room.
Jerry, you and Dennis, you haven't received an apology
No.
either. Well, you did from the governor.
From the governor, but
not
the police.
from the officer or the police department.
No, I couldn't even get them to call me back.
Well, what we decided to do, because of the situation, we started a foundation called themorph.org, the Movement Opposing Racial Profiling and Harassment, because it's not atypical for racial profiling. A lot of people are being racially profiled. We get emails and calls all the time, so there has to be something done about this. Yeah. So we didn't plan on having this situation, but we feel like now it's responsibility to try and help and change.
My ultimate goal is some kind of sensitivity training within the police departments.
Yeah. I do want to thank all of my guests today. A special thanks to Cheryl Dorsey, thank you for weighing in. Michael Massey, thank you. Ari David, thanks for being here and talking about what you've had to say. And thanks for being here, everybody, so long.